The paper on your desk today may come from the same kind of tree that helped trap people inside burning cars in Portugal. The same kind of tree that has been blamed for drying farmland in parts of India. The same kind of tree linked to fire-prone plantation landscapes in Indonesia. And the same kind of tree that America planted across California before realizing what kind of fire it could carry. In Australia, it is a home for koalas, a national symbol. It is considered so beneficial to humans that the World Bank has spent billions of dollars planting it all over the world, in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe. And now that same tree is burning our planet. Its name is Eucalyptus, and its story is one of the most unsettling paradoxes in the relationship between humans and nature. The same tree can be a symbol of life in one place and a fire machine somewhere else. In Australia, eucalyptus belongs. It has been part of that landscape for millions of years. The animals, the soil, the plants, and even the fire cycles grew around it. Some eucalyptus species do not simply survive after fire. Fire helps clear the ground, open seed capsules, and make room for new growth. For this tree, fire is not always a threat. Fire can be part of the plan. The problem began when humans moved eucalyptus into places that never evolved with it, places that did not have millions of years to adapt, places where people saw only the benefits: fast wood, cheap paper, quick shade, and money that could be harvested in a few years. What happened next should have been easy to predict, but the world was too busy calling it progress. To understand why eucalyptus can be so dangerous outside its native habitat, we have to start at the chemical level. Eucalyptus leaves contain high amounts of eucalyptal oil. On hot days, that oil evaporates and creates a thin bluish haze above the forest. That blue haze is not a beautiful natural effect. It is liquid fuel floating in the air, ready to ignite before the flames even touch a single leaf. In terms of energy, 1 kilogram of dry eucalyptus can release around 20 megajoules of heat when it burns. That is almost equal to lignite coal, and much higher than pine, which produces around 17 megajoules, or oak, which produces around 15. That means fire in a eucalyptus forest needs around 30% more water to put out, spreads faster, and burns with far more intensity. But the deadliest part is not the heat. Eucalyptus bark is fibrous and peels off easily. When it burns, it releases lightweight pieces of glowing ember, known in wildfire science as firebrands. The wind can carry those embers 30 to 40 kilometers ahead of the main fire line, far beyond the reach of any firefighting crew, and ignite new fires in places no one expected. This is why fires in eucalyptus zones can feel impossible to control. The fire does not move in a straight line. It jumps. It appears from directions no one anticipated. It cuts off evacuation routes and surrounds villages. In Portugal, in October 2017, 45 people died trapped inside their cars on a road that should have been safe. That was not just bad luck. That was eucalyptus physics working exactly the way it was built to work. And one final fact makes the situation even harder to fix. After a fire, eucalyptus grows back 3 times faster than many native plants. Every time land burns and opens up, eucalyptus can take over faster than oak, chestnut, and other native trees, often before they even have a chance to sprout. Eucalyptus did not spread across the world naturally. Its expansion was planned, funded, and actively promoted for more than a century. In the 1850s, Brazil imported eucalyptus for railroad ties. Hardwood, fast growth, and technically cheap. In the 1890s, eucalyptus was planted in malaria-prone swamps in Palestine, based on the claim that its roots would absorb standing water and improve the environment. Then, in the 1950s, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization actively promoted eucalyptus in developing countries as a miracle tree for poverty reduction. The World Bank also poured money into large-scale planting across Africa and Asia. Economically, the appeal was undeniable. Eucalyptus can be harvested in just 7 to 15 years, compared with 40 to 80 years for many tropical hardwoods. 1 hectare of eucalyptus plantation can produce 30 to 50 cubic meters of wood per year, about 3 times the productivity of an ordinary forest. And the tree can grow even on marginal land that was once considered unproductive. The result is massive. Today, eucalyptus grows in more than 100 countries and covers around 20 million hectares outside Australia, almost the size of the United Kingdom and Germany combined. All of it was planted by human hands in less than 200 years. In Galicia, Spain, a landowner named Evaristo Rodriguez once explained why he planted eucalyptus. He planted it. The result was good, and in about 15 years, the trees could be cut and sold. For many small landowners, the logic is not complicated. This tree grows fast, buyers exist, and the money is real. That simple sentence captures what has happened to millions of farming families across nearly every continent. Before the fire arrives, another disaster unfolds more quietly and much more slowly. One mature eucalyptus tree can absorb 200 to 400 liters of water from the soil every day across 1 hectare of plantation containing hundreds or even thousands of trees. That number is enough to permanently change the hydrology of an entire area. In the southern Indian states of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, the government encouraged large-scale eucalyptus planting for the paper industry in the 1980s. Within 5 to 7 years, farmers living near the plantations began reporting dry wells. Seasonal rivers that had provided irrigation for generations stopped flowing. Land conflicts broke out. Some districts eventually banned new eucalyptus planting near farmland, but by then, the damage had already been done. And this is the cruelest paradox in the entire story. Land dried out by eucalyptus creates the perfect condition for even larger fires. Oil-rich eucalyptus leaf litter does not break down normally. It builds up on the forest floor as a thicker layer of fuel year after year. Then, when eucalyptus experiences drought stress, it produces even more oil in its leaves. The cycle locks itself in, with no easy way out. Indonesia offers another warning. In Sumatra and Kalimantan, industrial plantation landscapes sit near some of the most fire-prone peatlands on Earth. In 2015, fires burned around 2.6 million hectares of land in Indonesia and caused roughly $16.1 billion in economic losses. The smoke crossed borders into Singapore and Malaysia, turning local fires into a regional haze crisis. Eucalyptus alone did not cause that disaster, but fast-growing plantation trees on drained peatland create a dangerous combination. Dry peat below, combustible biomass above, and a landscape that becomes much harder to extinguish once fire gets inside it. That is the global pattern. Eucalyptus is rarely the only problem, but when it is placed in the wrong environment, it can make every other problem worse. California has its own eucalyptus story. The tree arrived there in the middle of the 19th century. The first recorded eucalyptus planting in California dates back to 1853 at Golden Gate Nursery. At the time, the state was expanding fast. Mines, railroads, fences, farms, and cities all needed wood. Eucalyptus looked like the perfect answer: tall, fast-growing, strong-looking, and ready for a state that wanted everything quickly. Then the dream began to crack. The wood did not behave the way investors expected. In many cases, it warped, split, and became difficult to use as commercial lumber. The timber boom never became the miracle many people had promised. But the trees stayed. They stayed on hillsides, campuses, roadsides, parks, and coastal land. Over time, some Californians began to love them. The smell, the shade, the tall blue-green silhouettes, all of it became part of the California landscape people remembered from childhood. But fire does not care about nostalgia. In October 1991, the Oakland-Berkeley Hills fire turned that debate into ash. 25 people died. Around 150 were injured. More than 3,000 structures were destroyed in one of the most densely populated wildland urban zones in North America. The fire overwhelmed local firefighting forces and was only stopped after the Diablo wind conditions eased. Once again, eucalyptus was not the sole cause of the fire. But eucalyptus became one of the symbols of that disaster because the tree had all the wrong traits in all the wrong places. Oily leaves, peeling bark, dense groves, heavy fuel buildup near homes. And the most disturbing part is that the warning had already been there. A 1973 University of California study found that fuel buildup could happen rapidly in unmanaged eucalyptus stands in the Oakland Hills and recommended fuel reduction as part of fire prevention. The hillside had already spoken. There is a way out of this problem, but it is not short and it is not cheap. Technically, one of the most promising solutions is to insert corridors of fire-resistant native trees between eucalyptus blocks to break the fire's continuity. In Galicia, a volunteer group known as the Eucalyptus Brigades has grown from 50 to 1,500 members. Every weekend they remove wild eucalyptus and replant native trees. The results are real, but the scale is still far from what is needed. On the policy side, Portugal and Spain have begun testing subsidy systems to encourage landowners to shift toward mixed forests. In Galicia, the government issued a moratorium on new eucalyptus planting in 2021. But illegal plantations continue to appear, and the total eucalyptus area keeps expanding because of the tree's invasive ability to fill empty land after fires. In Indonesia, part of the solution has already been attempted, not through one massive step that removes eucalyptus overnight, but through peatland restoration, closing canals, raising groundwater levels, planting native peat vegetation, and finding alternative income sources for nearby communities. Because any solution that does not include real compensation and concrete economic alternatives will only become another document that is never carried out. Meanwhile, in the East Bay and coastal California, the replacement is not one magic tree. What is needed is a return to mixed native landscapes: coast live oak, California bay laurel, toyon, native shrubs, native grasslands, and oak woodlands. In wetter coastal areas, coast redwood can also be part of the answer, but only where the land actually supports it. The point is not to replace one monoculture with another. That would repeat the same mistake. The point is to break the fuel into smaller pieces, restore native biodiversity, and stop fire from moving continuously through the hills. The tree that shelters koalas in Australia has fueled fire debates in Portugal, water conflicts in India, haze disasters in Indonesia, and wildfire fears in California. Not because the tree is evil, because humans took an ecological system that had evolved for millions of years, moved it into places that were not ready for it, and called that progress. Eucalyptus only does what it has always done: grow fast, absorb water, burn its competitors, and take over land. The real problem is the system that carried it from one ecosystem to the rest of the world for short-term profit, then pretended to be shocked when everything started burning. And as long as the paper in your hand still comes from the same kind of tree, we are all part of that chain, whether we realize it or not.